You were set up to fail. And if you've ever lost weight only to gain it back or done everything right and the scale barely moved, this is why. Most fat loss advice is built for short-term wins, not long-term stability. And here's the part no one tells you. Discipline is not the problem. Readiness and capacity are the problem. If you were told that you just needed to follow the plan, track the food, do the detox, push harder, that your body would eventually respond, but that is not how bodies work, and that's not how our nervous system works. And when it doesn't work the way you were promised, something shifts. And it's not your effort, but it is your belief. You start wondering if you're broken, if your hormones are the problem, if you need something more extreme. So you tighten control, you cut more, you track harder, and you try to be better. And that's when the spiral starts. In this video, I am going to show you the 5 stages of fat loss that no one explains and why skipping even one of them keeps you starting over. Because fat loss is not one continuous push. It's not start, grind, lose, and then maintain weight. It moves in stages, and not just stages of weight loss, but stages of capacity, perception, and identity. And if you apply the wrong strategy at the wrong stage, you don't get faster results. You get instability and hopelessness. So instead of asking, how do I lose more? The better question is, what stage am I actually in? And most women stay stuck in stage 1 longer than they realize. Stage 1 is what I call capacity and skill. This is where most people think they're here to lose fat, but they're not. They're actually here to build a body that can actually respond to fat loss techniques. During this phase, in the beginning, they are learning how to lift weights. They are learning how to not compensate with their form. They are learning to correct postural issues that can impede their ability to actually build muscle correctly. They're learning how to ground and stack, which is imperative for making sure A, you avoid injuries, 2, that you can handle increased load without putting too much stress on joints. They are learning a mind-muscle connection with their body. They are learning how to get in the adequate amount of protein essential for building muscle. They are learning how to consume whole foods. All of these things are skills that need to be learned. And pretty much in the beginning, we are learning to correct deficits in women, also hormonal deficits, sleep deficits, right? All of these things take skill. And you can't just start a program and then expect to execute everything perfectly from the very beginning, because there is a steep learning curve. So in the beginning, when we're correcting these deficits, right, we have to kind of think in a different kind of strategy. So the beginning stage, again, being capacity and skill, you are building the skill to be able to do the things required to get your body to actually respond to fat loss techniques. So we are repairing these deficits, because a body with too many current deficits cannot be expected to lose fat. And most women are trying to diet on top of multiple deficits. This stage can take anywhere from 3 months to 8 months if a client is training consistently and outwardly. Not much changes in the body. For example, I tell clients it's like writing a best-selling novel that nobody knows you are writing yet. You just know and you believe deep down that you are writing this bestseller, and you're working secretly behind the scenes, okay? And when you're behind the scenes working, you know that you're setting something up for a great reveal, right? So you have to work kind of in this mindset, right? When an author knows that they have a very good novel that they are writing, they believe 100%, but they're not seeing the results of that in the beginning. And that's kind of what a client in the beginning has to start thinking like. You have to believe in the work before there's proof. And this is where people quit, because it feels like nothing is happening. This is also the first danger zone for distorted thinking, because effort is high and visible feedback, it is low. Stage 2 is what I call the perceptual shift. This is where progress does not look the way that people expect. During this phase, the clients have a better sense of how to lift. They are really learning, and their mind-muscle connection is so much better, but the scale is not yet moving. They're beginning the process of body recomposition, where they're gaining muscle just as fast as the rate of fat loss. So they could be gaining a half a pound of muscle and then lose a half a pound of fat simultaneously. This especially happens to virgin lifters or people who have never really lifted weights before because their body is responding to a new stimulus. So those clients, they can build muscle a lot faster than, for example, I can. I've been lifting since I was 25. I am now 52. I cannot gain the amount of muscle that a brand new client who comes into our studio who has never lifted weights before, if they are doing the right things from the beginning, right, they can gain a considerable amount of muscle in the beginning. So sometimes they'll say, well, I didn't really lose that much weight. I only lost 4 or 5 pounds, but they lost a tremendous amount in inches. And when that happens, that's because they have gained the amount of muscle as proportional to the rate of fat loss. Now, I'm not going to say that they gain 4 pounds of muscle in a month because that probably did not happen, right? But they can definitely gain a pound of muscle in a month and lose a pound of fat, or a half a pound of muscle in a month and lose a half a pound of fat. So at this stage, it could be deceptive because we are trained to think that fat loss should happen and we should see this on the scale and we should see this linear process happening going down. But often what they see is this zigzag approach. And most people don't quit here because nothing is happening. They quit because progress looks wrong. Diet culture taught them that effort should be rewarded immediately by fat loss on the scale. So when that reward doesn't show up, the nervous system goes into scarcity. Stages 1 and 2 contain what I call the false window failure. The body is responding, but confirmation hasn't yet arrived. And if you leave during this window, you will keep repeating this window or this stage again and again. I had a client who would self-sabotage every 4 weeks, pretty much like clockwork. She was doing everything right, or at least she thought she was. Her body wasn't losing weight yet, so stress accumulated and deprivation in the mindset built. And eventually she would fall off completely and gain back the 1 or 2 pounds she lost. So instead of changing her plan, we changed this. We changed her interpretation. We used what I call an act as if approach. She acted as if her body was responding exactly as intended, and she stayed on her trajectory. What she discovered was that her body did not let go of fat in weeks 1 through 4. It actually let go of fat in weeks 5 and 6. Normally, she would self-sabotage before that point. So for example, during that 6th week, sometimes she would lose now 6 pounds. But in the past, it felt like she should have achieved this in the first 4-week time frame. So then she would end up self-sabotaging right before something actually occurred. The act as if approach helped her stay on plan. So nothing about her plan changed, but her interpretation did. Most people never stay long enough to find out what their body would have done. Stage 2 can last anywhere from 3 to 8 months or more, depending upon how consistent the client is and how well they can manage their nervous system. In the next phase, stage 3, clients do one of 2 things. They either settle in and enjoy the ride, or they get antsy. Stage 3 is progressive adaptation. Now, the body is changing, strength is going up, and clothes begin to fit differently, but the excitement is gone. Food feels boring, training feels repetitive and monotonous, and this is where people mistake boredom for stagnation. But boredom is where long-term change is built. Most people leave or quit here because it stops feeling dramatic or exciting. The body doesn't need excitement at this time. It needs repetition. This stage is about progressive overload, volume, and recovery, staying long enough for adaptation to compound. This is where some clients have to take the time, anywhere from 12 to 24 months, to put on the amount of muscle needed to make the next stage, stage 4, work amazingly well. Stage 4 is strategic intensification. This is where faster fat loss finally makes sense because the foundation exists. By this point, clients have put on a considerable amount of muscle, so then they therefore have a higher resting metabolic rate. They're burning more calories at rest just because of the amount of muscle they have. They now have stability in training and nutrition. Things are more dialed in. They have the ability to schedule their workouts and make them happen on a consistent basis. Now they're pushing more weight. They're starting to get personal records in their lifts. They're starting to see these PRs. Clients can now see their physique actually change, and they're like, oh, I didn't know I had muscle there. Oh my gosh, look at my bicep. Oh my gosh, look at this. So they're starting to see this growth, and they also have an underlying very important skill set. So now that they're able to have this skill set, things like this start to work. Things like carb cycling or short mini cuts become tools instead of survival strategies. Used too early, they create chaos. Used at the right time, they create precision. Some people choose them, and other clients decide the sacrifice isn't worth it right now. And both decisions are strong because this choice is coming from strength, not desperation or urgency. Then in stage 5, something shifts. Clients stop chasing aesthetic change, not because their body didn't change, but because they value who they became. This is embodied identity, stage 5. During this phase, they built strength, not just physical strength, but emotional strength, resilience, trust in themselves. They have developed boundaries. So they have no longer people intruding on their workout times. They're able to set this time for themselves. They have self-respect. They're able to make their lives a priority. This is a very different phase, and they got there through this journey. This is what's so amazing about strength training, because it doesn't just build physical strength, it builds an internal sense of safety, self-reliance, self-capacity, resilience, and all of these things are so important and so valuable. And many of them value this journey so much more than the initial goal they had when they came into the studio. When they first came into the studio, the goal was always, this is how much pounds I want to get off. This is how much I want to tone my arms, tone my legs. But this is a very different place. This is a very different arrival point. They could not have gotten here unless they went through those other 4 stages. They start asking different questions like, what will my 80-year-old self thank me for? They stop chasing change because they have become change. And ironically, that's when change in their aesthetics becomes effortless. Throughout every stage, there is one question I come back to again and again. Can your life support this body? Can your life support these tactics? These are stability checks, because if your life can't support it, your body won't keep it. What do I mean by this? So if a client has, for example, 40 pounds she wants to lose or he wants to lose, and they try to get right down to that 40-pound mark and then try to live life there, they often struggle. And that's because they have no idea what it feels like to even maintain 10 pounds with their current environment in life, with their current times restraints, with their current personal life issues, with their current stress management techniques, with their current relationship issues. All of these things are factors which influence how we show up in our day. For example, I use myself as an example quite often. There have been many times that I have been way leaner than I am now. Okay, and that range is probably about 8 to 10 pounds different than from where I am now. If I was to try to lose 8 to 10 pounds from where I am now, my life would have to look very different. Is that worth it to me? There may be times for a short period of time that it might be worth it, but for the most part, no, it's not worth it for me. I like to go out to eat with my love of my life, right? I love to go out to eat with him. It is very important that I get to partake in all the things. I don't drink alcohol. Maybe I have 1 drink a month at most, okay? But I want to be able to have the cheesecake. I want to be able to have the, apple strudel or whatever. I don't want to have to think about every single thing that I'm eating. And in order for me to maintain my leanest state, I would have to really micromanage every single thing that I eat. And I just choose to not live there. As you can see, there was a picture that popped up. That was my leanest state, right? But that's not what is life to me. And so for clients that are trying to lose weight and they're trying to get down to this certain key point, right? It's really important to ask yourself, is this something that I can maintain on a current basis? And you may be able to maintain it for a short period of time through grit and force, but eventually your nervous system is going to get jacked up, right? You're going to get stressed and you're not going to be able to make that happen for the long term. And instead of feeling bad about yourself, right, we have to look at it and be like, does my life support this right now? And if it does not, that is not a failure. And this is where I have a big argument with so much that goes on with fat loss, right? 30-day shreds, detox, programs like this. Yes, eventually we can force the weight off, but can you live at that lower weight? And if you can't, it's not because it's a personal failure. It's because there are certain skills and systems and the capacity and the resilience to be able to handle living life at a lower weight. So for clients that, for example, again, have to lose 40 pounds, lose 10 and see what is different when you have to maintain just 10 pounds off. You're going to notice that, like, oh, I can't just, have a ton of BLTs. I call those BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes, right? I can't just have a bunch of those. I have to limit what I'm doing. And how does that feel? How does my nervous system respond? Do I feel deprived? If I feel deprived, what is that really about? And all of these questions are really important when it comes to trying to maintain fat loss. We can follow the behaviors and the tactics and the techniques and all of those things, but if our nervous system is not congruent with the tactics that we have to do, it is doomed to just backfire and fail. So fat loss doesn't fail because people are weak-willed. It fails because readiness and capacity and resilience is never taught. And once you understand that, the entire process stops feeling like a personal failure and it starts to make sense. If this gave language to something you have been experiencing, you are not broken. You are just earlier in the process than you were told. And that means you're not behind. You are building and can proceed with confidence that you are exactly where you are meant to be.